Hello and welcome to the beer pad. Marcus is very okay. I thought that was the ghost of Marcus for a second.
Good grief. I'm an old vampire. I made the mistake of leaving a curtain open and not checking my camera settings. But look at me now. Here I am.
Is it a very bright day in Southern California?
Does the Pope wear a funny hat and like his ring kissed?
Yes, I believe is the answer.
Yes. Yes,
So-
a million times.
We have a 50-50 episode for you today. The first half of the episode will be about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, and the second one will be about what, Marcus?
Footy.
That's right. This weekend, the 2023-2024 Premier League season starts. So we're going to make some predictions, talk about expectations, and
Cry.
see. Yeah. And then at the end, we will get to some of your comment. Okay, I gotta post this one. This one's just fun.
Yeah, no, this is bad. This is a good one. This is a good one.
That was at the age I was at the time. Gremlins was pretty scary to me. So it got pretty graphic at the end.
Gremlins 1 was
Yeah.
a great horror, like almost like a teen horror, if you will. But
Yeah.
it's just a great movie. Gremlins 2, which is very, very underrated. A lot of people hated it, but I mean,
Totally
it did
very
play up the camp a lot more. But
Yeah.
I really liked it. I mean, I actually thought they had a lot of fun with it
They did.
compared to the first one. But the first one is indeed a Christmas classic. I haven't watched the Mogwai cartoon on Warner Brothers because on Max, because that really does feel like a kid's. It's for the children. There's nothing wrong with the children because children are the future, and let them have their shows.
I did not know that was a thing until you mentioned it, the Mogwai cartoon. I will have to see what that's about.
Apparently, it's Mogtastic.
So, Marcus, let's give our quick thoughts, give a quickie review, if you will, of Mutant Mayhem. What did you think of the movie?
I haven't enjoyed a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie like that since the very first movie that came out in 89, 90?
Yeah, because the comics was 84, the kids cartoon was 87, and then the first movie was after that. So
I think it was 89.
sounds good.
Yeah, and I really, really liked that film. It did
Yeah.
so much right. The animatronics were great. The costumes were great. Every cent that they had in the budget was up on the screen. And the movies that made us, documentary series on Netflix. I think they have one on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. How it was filmed in a warehouse in North Carolina. And a lot of crazy stuff, and how the suits stank and were falling apart because they were just foam and latex and rubber. But yes, I enjoyed that one a lot. It also had a banging soundtrack.
Yes.
And
As did this one.
As did this one. But before we get to that, and we stay on the subject of soundtracks, the soundtrack to the cartoon, which became an iconic anthem or in playgrounds around the world, Heroes in the Half Shell, Turtle
Right.
Power, was written by none other than the creator of Two and a Half Men and The Big Bang Theory, Chuck Lorre.
That's right.
Which is quite mind-boggling. He banged it out in, I think, like 2.5 days or something,
Right.
or a day and a half, and he got paid $6,000 for it. Which in early 90s money was probably about 50 cents nowadays.
Right. So I like the movie. I wasn't tracking it, so I didn't really have any expectations going in, but I enjoyed it on several levels. I think it's probably top 3 of the Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoons movies. Like you said, I enjoyed the first movie a lot. I don't know if you watched the 2009 cartoon, Turtles Forever.
That's the was that a TMNT one?
It's a cartoon that mixes the 2003, 1987, and a little bit of the original black and white comics Turtles. So
No,
it was kind of like their multiverse kind of deal. So I really appreciated that.
I haven't seen that one. I think I've seen all the Turtles movies.
Right.
I've obviously seen, Turtles, Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze. Turtles go back in time to feudal Japan, which makes no sense whatsoever, but it's still not as bad as Go Ninja, Go Ninja, Go,
Right.
which was there was the Vanilla Ice contribution
Yes.
to Secrets of the Ooze, Turtles 2. I watched the TMNT cartoon movie, which I thought wasn't too bad at all, wasn't shabby at all,
Right.
totally inoffensive. And then, of course, there's the Michael Bay Turtles movies.
No thanks.
And the least said about those, the better. In fact, I would turn around and compare them to the Godzilla movie of the mid-90s.
Oh, the Matthew Broderick one?
Yeah, and I feel sorry for Matthew Broderick and everybody who's associated with that movie. But if you look, he looks like the Turtles' daddy in those two movies. So yes, they butched him up in a way that, yeah, just didn't seem to work. Lost all the charm, lost all the fun and wit. Thankfully, fun and wit is something that this one has in sewer loads.
Yeah, for sure.
I wanted
to ask you and everyone watching, either live or
you can't ask anybody else really, because I'm all you've got, mate.
So, as I said, this has been around since 1984. There's been comics, cartoons, movies. Turtles is a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I wanted to ask you, what are the definitive Turtle properties to you? What defines Turtles? Like which movies, comics, cartoons in your mind?
I'm not, with regards to the comics, I never read the comics.
Oh, wow.
I did at one point read Batman versus the Ninja Turtles, which was a bit of a mind fuck. Lots of multi-dimensional phasing, etc.,
Yeah.
and it's right up there with Batman versus Judge Dredd, as far as I'm concerned. There's crossovers. And Doctor Who crossover with Star Trek. That just things that just don't seem to work for me. I would say, like I said, that first one. I had the soundtrack album. Really enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
I still think that original the theme tune, "Turtle Power," is one of the most banging soundtrack songs ever. I thoroughly recommend people giving it a listen. It totally works. It's a total piece of a early 90s time capsule music. It just ticks all the boxes. Then, like I said, they had the two mediocre sequels I watched, and wasn't really interested in. And after that, there's not really been a huge interest. I've not gone to the theater to watch a Turtles movie.
Right.
The cartoons were obviously, I was 19, 20 when that first Turtles movie came out, and it worked for me because it worked, I think, for a lot of people on a lot of ages. But I kind of grew out the franchise, which I know the franchise, the actual comic books were meant to be the antidote or the antithesis to the Tights and Spandex Brigade.
Yeah, for sure.
Kevin Eastman and
Laird.
Peter Laird, yeah. Did when that's why they created it.
Yeah.
But it really, that kind of sort of like flew by me, and I saw I played the Turtles arcade game,
of course,
game that was fun. Shredder's Revenge, Turtles in Time,
right. So for my background, I did read the comics, and I was at the time I was definitely too young to be reading them. I was always a Marvel DC guy. Still am for the most part. So this is one of the few independent comics that I read. The first publisher was Mirage. It was black and white. The art was really gritty. Tons of violence and blood, which I was not getting from, Daredevil and X-Men were the edgiest things that I read at the time. And this was way beyond that and definitely not appropriate for my age. So when the cartoon became popular, I was like, "Yee, what the hell happened?" Like they're all goofy and slapstick. And I
Yeah.
understand though it's usually popular, and for many people, that is what turtles are. But it wasn't really my thing. What I liked about the first movie is that it followed the comics pretty closely, but still adapted it, made it mainstream enough to make it popular for a wide audience. So I think the first movie is definitive for me. The comics, of course, I loved Turtles in Time, the 2009 movie. Really great multiversal story. So for this one, what elements of the Turtles you liked made it to Mutant Mayhem, and how does that fit into your view of Turtles?
Honestly, again, it felt very similar to that first movie. An interesting another factoid in the UK, the BBC they had the rights to the Turtles cartoons, and they refused to air them unless they renamed it Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, because the powers that be were scared that ninja would be too much for impressionable children. This is the same 90s government and the situation in the UK that banned George Michael's "I Want You Sex," "Want Your Sex,"
Wow.
and "Relax" by Frankie Goes to Hollywood, and just a bunch of old white men,
That's
white
funny.
women with sticks up their assholes. Anyway, definitely, it got that vibe. I mean, yes, you could see it. It's a multi-generational movie, and that's
Yeah.
fine. It will appeal, and I hate to sound like a movie quote, but this should apply. This should enthrall Turtles fans of all ages, because it's a bit of something for everybody.
Yeah,
There's
for
enough
sure.
nods and winks for it to be there for the older fans. The music, I mean,
Yeah.
De La
My God.
Soul, Wu-Tang. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff in there that's absolutely awesome.
Right.
There's
So
nods back to that original.
the first song was I Know by De La Soul, and the last song was Can I Kick It by A Tribe Called Quest. And those are my two favorite hip hop acts of all time. So I was delighted to be hearing that in a movie theater and very surprised, but
And well, that's
awesome.
what happens when I think somebody like Seth Rogen, who is within our sort of like age group.
And a true
You know,
fan.
I'm
Yeah.
at the top end of his age group. You're at the bottom end. You're at the younger end, nearer to his age, I think. He's a true fan, but he's also a fan of that period.
Yeah.
And while you were maybe 4 or whatever during the 90s, I was in my early 20s, and that was the music I was listening to. Now,
Right.
never mind this. Oh, I was listening to it as a teen crap. No, I was going out to nightclubs, dancing to it with women.
Nice.
Yeah, and drinking, grown-up drinks and everything.
I like how you put it in that there's something for everyone, because there really is. There is some content that might be scary for little kids, but there's also the funny slapstick physical humor that little kids love. The animation style, I thought the art style was fantastic because it combined kind of like the rough edges and the imperfections of the original comics, but it's also very modern and technically impressive. I was really, really impressed by how they did that. And
it had
apparently they took care of the artists too. So that's weird.
Yeah. It had the Into the Spider-Verse / Across the Spider-Verse vibe.
Right.
So I'm not sure if that's the in vogue version art style now. If it is, I'm not complaining. I think it looks great. I think it's much like computer generated animation
Right.
in the 2000s was the thing, the early 2000s.
But it still had a roughness that maybe
this had a
and
roughness and a rawness that was great.
Yeah.
It looked hand drawn in sections.
Yeah, for sure.
Almost like it's like listening to vinyl. There's that little bit of scratchiness,
That's a good way to put it. I didn't think of I love that analogy.
I'm on fire today. I just got up from a 2-hour nap. So yeah, I mean it has this this script, and it messes with canon.
Yes.
What we perceive to be canon, but it does it in a good way. And we're gonna head to Spoiler Town. So
yes.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. A wooga, a fucking wooga. But and there's some things there that some people they're not happy with. Oh, April O'Neil, she doesn't have a suntan. She's white and she's got red hair. Why is April O'Neil got a suntan? I'm concerned. What about the children? This is like the drag people reading the books in the libraries. First they come for our books and steal them and corrupt them because they're wearing tights. And now our April O'Neils have got some dark to the skin. And she's not skinny and bouncy.
Well, despite what Friends showed people, not everyone in New York is white.
So. Exactly, some are green.
Yes.
But yes, I thought April O'Neil was great. I love how they worked her, give her a little humorous backstory as the Vomit Queen.
Cute girl.
Yeah, I thought the Turtles themselves. I mean, it's always comes down to how strong those voice characters are of the four.
Right.
And I thought the four worked really, really well together.
And they used actual kid actors for the VO for the Turtles instead of like, let's say in the original movie, like Corey Feldman, who was in his 20s at that point, was I think he was Donatello.
Yeah.
So they had, and Brian Toshi, who was one of the few Asian actors at the time, he was in there too. And those were all adults voicing teenagers.
Yeah, no, I thought it was great. I thought they all worked, and then obviously Seth Rogen's Rolodex.
Yeah, let's look at
contacts list on your phone if for the young people who don't know what a fucking Rolodex is. But yeah, I mean, obviously he cast himself, as you're gonna do. But I mean, yes, you look at that. Giancarlo Esposito. We know about Jackie Chan as Splinter. And I thought it felt a little rough with Splinter at the beginning, but he got into his groove midway through the movie. But
I mean, his English was never great. So
no, it's not necessarily a criticism of his English. I don't have a problem with that 1000%. It just felt a little off. I think it just felt a little detached, and but it just got into its flow, and I think Jackie Chan got a little more comfortable with it. But I mean, he was great. He was absolutely great. Paul Rudd, I thought, kind of stole the show, as Paul Rudd is
want to do.
Yeah.
I loved Rose Byrne playing the Australian character, and I love that she made the blooming onion from Outback Steakhouse at the end. I thought that was hilarious.
Well, she is indeed an Aussie, is she not?
Yeah, she is.
She is. Yeah. And then Ice Cube is Superfly.
Yeah.
I mean, that from Straight Outta Compton and Fuck the Police to
a giant
Superfly, to a giant gangster fly. I mean, you can't really argue with that, can you?
Post Malone is Ray Fillet. That character cracked me up.
I was not familiar with that particular character, but yeah, I thought it was very amusing. But yes, they had a great voiceover cast.
Yeah, for sure.
The story itself was good. I mean, not a shredder in sight. And they've Rogen had obviously looked at it and learned from the Marvel and DC movies. I think in particular, we're looking at Batman, Spider-Man, and Superman.
You don't have to kill Uncle Ben every time,
Exactly. Yeah, and there was no Martha moments. So yes, it was a good twist. It was an origin story, but enough of an origin story with a twist to make it really enjoyable.
I was surprised that Rocksteady and Bebop weren't the generic bad guys, but they were just misled people that were good at heart.
That's the thing. I think it's basically the message is being a mutant isn't necessarily a bad thing.
It ain't easy.
You could be green or gray
or flies,
or huge pierced flabby boobs.
What was
like okay? Yeah, it's like oh wow, okay, that's a rather large nipple with a hoop through it.
I do want to give a shout out if you don't mind. I did notice that one of the people in the cast is Danny Mastrogiorgio. And next to him is David Faustino from Married with Children. But so
Wow.
Danny, people might know him from Sleepers. He was in a few Sopranos episodes. Here are some of his credits here. I confess I haven't watched any of these things. So it says IMDb says this is what he's known for. But Danny's a guy I used to hang out at a bar with when I was a kid. It was one of the bars in New York that served underage kids. It was like a combination of actors, kids, cops, and drug dealers hanging out at this bar. So Danny was one of the guys I played darts with at least twice a week. And it was very cool seeing that he was in this movie. I haven't spoken to him in decades, but I'm glad he's doing well. And I'm going to send this clip over to our common friends, and I hope he'll see it. And very cool to see Danny
That
there.
is very, very cool. Although, let me just say that the beer pad in no way endorses underage drinking.
Yes.
Or illegal drinking in a bar.
Or most of the things I do in general, or did.
Or most of the things I did. But I mean, at the end of the day, we've all done it. And obviously, this is a country where 21's the legal limit to drink. Apparently, you can go and get killed for your country at the age of 18.
Sure.
But you can't have a beer after they've blown your leg off.
So let's close out on Turtles. How would you sum it up? How would you recommend it? Was it worth a movie price?
All right, so this is the highest praise I could give Turtles. My wife came with me. It was her idea to get the tickets.
Wow.
Because she saw the trailer, she saw everybody who was involved, and she was like, okay, that looks cool. And she enjoyed it.
That's great.
Her exposure to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has been a big fan until that point.
Ah.
So, yeah, I cannot give any higher praise. I mean, I love what they did with it. I thought the cast was banging.
Yeah.
I thought the direction was great. I love the twists on the, like I said, on the perceived canon, especially with Bebop and Rocksteady. I loved how they tackled the ooze itself. Yeah, they've set up a universe, and it might. I'm not sure if it's. I mean, obviously, it did okay at the box office this weekend. I think it came in third behind The Meg 2 and Barbie. I haven't seen the box office numbers, but it would be great if this was more. If they decided to stop dropping this on Paramount Plus or whatever company owns Nickelodeon. With regards,
I think Paramount is right.
I think it's Paramount Plus. That this could be a great. Not a 30 episode cartoon season of 25 minutes of the old 80s stuff.
Right. Well, they did set up a sequel in the mid credits scene.
So. They did. But I mean, it does not. I don't think this has to be a movie. I think this could be very enjoyable, especially if you can get a a rolling
guest of the week kind of thing, like a Scooby-Doo.
Of guest voiceovers.
Yeah.
I mean, it could even be some specials. It could be a 3-arc miniseries. South Park did that with obviously the streaming wars and the pandemic ones. Might be something to bear in mind, because I mean, they could actually tell some really good stories that are a little bit longer and lift some stuff from the books and have a little fun with it, as opposed to waiting another 3 to 4 years for an eventual sequel, assuming they can actually get anybody to write it.
Yeah, I think they did a great job. This was a big surprise for me because I was expecting something average, and instead I got one of my 3 favorite Turtles movies ever. So good job. I mean,
yeah,
I do hope there's a sequel, and I can't wait to see what they do next. In some ways, it kind of reminds me of how J.J. Abrams reset the Star Trek universe. So they kind of reset the Turtles universe here and going in a different direction. So I hope it gives them the freedom to tell different stories.
With much less lens flare.
Yes, for sure. Now, moving on to...
We got to give a score.
How many shells out of 5? No halves. 5. Wow.
Yeah, although, I think I should give it 5.5 shells. I'm on fire, ladies and gentlemen. That's it. I'm spent. I'm done.
I will go with 4 shells.
Really?
I do think the first movie is better overall, and
The OG movie?
yeah, and I do like the Turtles Forever, just because it was doing multiverse stuff before the multiverse was cool, and it got the black and white original comics Turtles in the mix, which I went totally fanboy over.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Now, this weekend, starting Friday, is the new football season. Are you excited?
By football, my American friends, he means soccer.
Yes, not this silly stuff with the helmets and concussions and
Oh, you have
rich
concussions of
owners.
the other football too, mate.
Yeah,
Footy,
but yes,
the beautiful game.
the beautiful
22
game.
men on a pitch, or 22 women on a pitch. One
Yes.
ball, corner flags, all that fun stuff. Yes, it kicks off. And I mean, we say, oh, the season kicks off, but it's the Premier League season in the UK. And
Right.
The EPL,
Yes.
to those who can't.
I mean, it's the best league. It's the best league.
It's the richest league. The Premier League. I mean, obviously the lower leagues have kicked off, and we had our first Carabao Cup ties today. It's ridiculous that it's starting this early.
Yeah.
Let's get that out the way first. I mean, obviously, they've got a 38 game season.
Yep.
And I think they could drop 6 games off that by making the division 3 teams lighter for players' energy and for players to do better. Or when it comes to internationals or European tournaments, Europa Cup, the Europa leagues and
Europa Conference League now.
And the Conference League, and of course the Champions League.
Yeah.
But of course, greed is good. There's no midwinter break for the English Premier League because it's Boxing Day. I've had enough of my kids. I'm off to watch the fucking football. So yes, that kicks off this weekend. And who have you got first
for winning the league?
Yes, you won the league. No, I mean, who have you got first? Who are you playing? His team's a champion.
We're playing Burnley
3 times in a row, and you host Burnley. Do you not?
Yes.
You go and do, yes. Okay.
We're going to say hi to Mr. Company. See what he's up to.
Your former club legend and next manager, if he does half as good a job this season with Burnley as he did last, because I think your boy Pep's off in the end of the year, isn't he?
Yeah. Although
I fucking hope so.
If he always seems to re-up, but he looks tired, as does your guy. So they both seem to be.
Well, I know we've got him for 2.5 years, and I think the prospect of your guy leaving might actually stimulate him. Like, oh, we've got a fucking chance. But now, of course, we're up against the petrodollars of Newcastle as well, so that's always going to be fun. But yes, you got Burnley at home, and we. Liverpool have got Chelsea away. So, yeah, thanks, fixture computer. That's not, although maybe catching them early might not be a bad idea since they've signed 37 billion players, sold another 26 billion.
They're so hard to predict.
I mean, we don't know which team will turn up. I mean, they really gave us a good game when we played at their place last season. We were not in form. They were all over us, and we were lucky to come away with a point. And they
have so much talent and such a big squad, but
I totally have the team.
Yeah, last year they did not. I overrated their prospects. I thought they were sure to be top 4 based on talent alone, but they never put it together.
And this time they have a manager.
Yes, that wants to be there.
So, yes, they have a manager who is itching to prove a point against their London rivals, Tottenham, his former employers.
Mauricio Pochettino.
Yeah, so he will have been drilling them and getting them into shape, and they do have a bloated but good squad, a lot of talent. Whereas my team have we have a squad.
You have an identity. You have a playing style.
Yes, the team with no midfield. That's our identity. Last year we were the team with the broken midfield that were all too old and needed to be shipped on. 3 players left because they were out of contract. 3 of them, 3 midfielders left. Then we went and sold 2 midfielders, which leaves us 5 down.
Yeah.
we've only bought two. We don't have a recognized defensive midfielder in the entire squad who could be trusted because Bajetic and Thiago are not fit enough or experienced enough. So yeah, I have no idea. We signed two fucking players. And
Kaiser Sosabalozo, but how do you say
yeah,
his last name?
sausage balls and McAllister. And yeah, I cannot pronounce his name. They are two young, great looking midfielders who
Yes.
seem to fit our pressing game and stuff.
They play well too.
They do play well.
I thought you were good looking physically. Like, they are handsome, yes.
They are handsome too. They're well groomed, nice young men. But
McAllister's Brazilian, yeah?
Argentinian. He's a World Cup winner.
Oh, that's right. Oh my God. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it's the closest anyone in our squad has come to a fucking World Cup win recently. But I mean, we still need a defender and a defensive midfielder. Absolutely 100%. So yeah, I'm not looking forward to the start of the season. It's come around 3 weeks too early because our American owners are knobheads.
So my team, we lost Ilkay Gundogan on a free transfer to Barcelona. That's a big loss, especially in the dressing room. And at the end of the season, he always seems to have big moments. I remember that season where we barely beat your guys by a point, and Fernandinho was out.
There's wasn't that 2 seasons running you beat us by a point?
By a point, yeah. But he filled in for Fernandinho beautifully, and he considers that his best City season. A lot of people liked when he went on that goal scoring spree, but that's pretty obvious. We lost Riyad Mahrez. We sold him to a Middle Eastern team, Al something, Yankovic. I don't know. And we got 30 million for a 32-year-old or 33-year-old player. That's a great deal. I thought we were going to lose Kyle Walker to Bayern, but he decided to stay instead. He re-signed today, allegedly.
Oh, congratulations.
I thought for sure he was gone. We still have some dead weight in João Cancelo, who bailed on the team last season, went to Bayern, so far has no takers, but we got to get rid of him. Laporte wants to leave too. We picked up Josko Guardiol, who is projected to be one of the best young defenders in the league.
I think he's going to be to you what Virgil van Dijk was to Liverpool. Yeah, I mean, in fact, he's probably going to be what Company was to you. I think he's somebody who is very, very strong, a great defender with a great pass and a great footballing brain. And I think he is somebody who is going to be around for a very long time. And you have got a very, very good deal there. And I'm obviously all kinds of jealous because, he's and I'm not bullshitting here. He is a self-confessed Liverpool fan. He has said that on numerous occasions. They're documented. Yeah. At the end of the day, Liverpool couldn't afford him yet again because apparently frugality is the way to win things in football.
Depending on which math you used, he's the first or second most expensive defender on transfer. I mean, some people are using math to say that Maguire's contract is still because of the exchange rates at the time. So it's either Maguire or Guardiol was the most expensive defensive transfer ever.
Well, let's look, if we want to give defenders a good name, let's go with Guardiol. I mean, Harry Maguire is, 80 million, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And Van Dijk was like 75 million.
Which seems a bargain in retrospect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, you've signed some really, really good players.
We picked up Kovacic also.
Kovacic, who is very, very handy and will fit right in. He's got a lot of talent.
We could use more help on the right wing since we got rid of Mahrez. Right now, Bernardo is the only guy that really plays there. Foden has played there, but they used him in the midfield in preseason. So it looks like
he's more of a left winger, isn't he? Foden?
Yeah. He's much better. He doesn't do the inverted thing well. So
yeah. That'll be interesting on how you line up. But we are, we do have predictions to do, and I mean,
Yeah,
there's a lot of teams doing a lot of signings. Arsenal, who for the second season running, are spending money like fucking it's going out of business. It's going out of style.
that's
And
a
have
good question
signed
for you. Who do you
Declan
think
Rice.
so far had the best transfer window? And it's not over
Uh,
yet, so there's still time. But so far,
I would say it's between Arsenal and City.
ooh,
I mean, you're very adept at moving players on and getting good money for them. We sold Jordan Henderson, who's around the same age as Mahrez, maybe a year older. He went to the Middle East for 12 million.
right,
We did get 40 million for Fabinho, which is what we paid for him.
right.
So that's not bad. But I
That's
mean,
great.
40 million for a 29-year-old and it's supposedly in his prime doesn't really buy you much nowadays. We were so lucky that we got Alexis McAllister for 35 because he had a clause in his contract.
Right.
And that's smart business, and that's what we all want to do. But the problem is now we're haggling. We're haggling with clubs over players, and we're haggling over $4 million here and there, which is obviously a shit ton of money to the common people like what we are. But yeah, I'm getting a bit sick of the money balling for my team. I thought we started off well with our two signings very very quickly,
Right.
but we're 2 injuries away from having a bunch of kids in midfield, and I just can't see that being anything. We're top heavy. We're light at the back as well. I worry for us this season.
So maybe you could help me think this through. Thinking out loud, as Ed Sheeran once said. You mentioned Arsenal having a great window with Declan Rice, Kai Havertz as well.
Well, I wasn't really including Havertz. I was really more looking at Timber and
Right.
Rice. I don't know why
Arteta.
Arteta's got this thing with other clubs' cast-offs, which Havertz was, which, I mean, to be fair, Jesus and Zinchenko are the exceptions because you're buying from an excellent club with excellent players.
And he
But
knows
when
those
you
guys already.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But when you're buying Kai Havertz, who's undoubted potential, but has not done anything in this country for 3
Right.
years.
I rate him higher than most. I think he was just really misused at Chelsea.
Well, maybe he'll be. Look, he's a young lad. He'll prove me wrong, but obviously they had the same issue with Pulisic, who
Right.
thankfully for the US team has escaped his Chelsea purgatory. Hopefully, Romelu Lukaku will find somewhere to go as well because
That's
he
right.
deserves better than Chelsea. And that's my problem is that they're buying all these players and tying them to 6 and 8 year contracts, which to me is obscene and asinine. They do have some young players coming through. But I do think that Arsenal, I mean, Rice is going to make a lot of difference.
Yeah.
And it's not a question of me, I'm not even reading in the Community Shield victory because that was on penalties. That was a muchness game
Right.
or a nothing game. And I think it's like 8 of the last 10 times or 9 of the last 10 times a team has won the Community Shield. They've not gone on to win the Premier League.
Right.
And the only exception,
City.
yeah.
Uh-huh. I thought Newcastle had a pretty good transfer window. Harvey Barnes and especially Sandro Tonali, who's been one of my favorite bargain FIFA players for like the last 2 or 3 years. I always pick him up in the cheap and he becomes
They're both
awesome.
excellent players. Sandro Tonali is actually a great player in Football Manager as well. My problem with Sandro Tonali is he obviously doesn't want to be there. He's made it obvious that he did not want to leave his last club. They were selling him because they needed the money. He's obviously on a fat bumper paycheck. Where was he, at Milan?
Mm-hmm.
I think he was at Milan. And again, no offense to my I bet Geordie fans but when you're exchanging Milan for fucking Newcastle, which, there's a reason we have a saying in the UK, and that saying is "It's grim up north."
Right.
That he just didn't want to be there. He's I think he was a Milan boy, born and raised, playing for his hometown club. I'm no doubt that he's a consummate professional, and he is a superb footballer. Let
Yeah.
us not say that. Let us not discount that. But he's a young lad, and if he gets the homesick heebie-jeebies, could be a very long season for him. Best case scenario, he beds, gets over the language issue, and is loved by the city. And by the team. Worst case scenario, he could have a nightmare 12 months that could ruin him, and he'll be back on a loan by Christmas, maybe.
I hope not. I mean, I like him as a player, and
for his sake, I hope not. For Newcastle's sake and all their petrochemical, human rights abusing sake, I hope every signing's a fucking failure who gets scrapped. And of course, that goes for your team too. No offense, my friend. But yeah, that one's a tough one. Harvey Barnes, excellent player, young, exciting, attacking player. I mean, Eddie Howe has proven that he can handle a big budget. There's no super extravagant Neymar-esque signings, which is a good thing. He's not gone all Mark Hughes circa early petrochem dollars at Man City back in the day when he signed Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, they're there and thereabouts again.
Now, I know we're kind of biased here, but I think Man U had a pretty good transfer window as well. They got picked up Mason Mount, Hoyland, because we have Holland, big, tall Scandinavian guy. They got Hoyland, big, tall Scandinavian guy. They picked up Onana, who had a pretty solid Champions League run at goal, and keeper was one of their weak spots the last few years. So that solves a big issue for those guys. I think they're going to be a threat.
They're going to be shit. They're still going to be Man United because they love a crisis. They had all that success, and yes, they've again, for a side that's won practically nothing in the last 5 or 6 years, they might have found a lot of money to spaff away, which is again a really real bone of contention to me. And this is obviously a club that's also just been hit with financial fair play fines. Although
I missed that.
Yes, they got hit with them. I think £250,000 in fines, which is obviously nothing.
It's like tip money.
Yes, literally. What they should have done was relegate them to the conference in Wrexham's place, which they should do for all violators of the financial fair play.
I know Chelsea got hit too. They got hit with another.
They could fucking go too.
Fee.
Boom, and let's see how they keep those players on contract. When they're going to Ashburton under Lyme to play their team in front of 14 people and a dog.
I do feel bad for not knowing any of the Middle Eastern teams, all of which start with.
I don't either, because at the end of the day, it's prime sports washing. It's abhorrent. It's at the end of the day, these are countries that have a shit ton of money, but a very backward way when it comes to LGBTQ rights, and in fact, LGBTQ people have no rights over there. Much like every single country on the planet that is ruled by religious whack jobs, because you can have faith, there's nothing wrong with faith and celebrating that faith. When your faith, basically inflicts misery on others, you're a bunch of fucking cunts.
And I don't mean to, I don't want us to sound like it's a monolith there. A lot of what's happening there is bad, but it's different degrees of bad. And
it's all different degrees. It's basically, this country, they're a cunt. This country, slightly less cunty. This one's slightly more cunty.
That's fair.
And it's basically all down to petrochemical money. So the sooner we get off that gas tit, which will be great, by the way, planet boiling. We're literally boiling alive.
And the LGBTQ treatment is a problem in many Muslim dominated countries, not just
it's a
in the
problem
Middle
in
East.
every country where there's a fucking religious quotient. It's a problem in this country where you've got the evangelical Christians, you've got the Catholics, you've got every other motherfucker who is just an asshole. So keep your faith behind closed doors. I'll keep my atheism out in front and center because I'm not biased against LGBTQI people. I love drag queens in libraries, and I want taco trucks on every fucking corner.
I'm totally down with that.
For your enemy. Yeah, I am Republicans' public enemy. Carlos actually asks a good question here. Why do you get fined for playing fair? Well, I'm glad you asked that, Carlos. So welcome to Uncle Marcus Explains It All. And then I'll explain it, and then Ray will translate and actually make it more factual. So the financial fair play rules are fiscal rules to make sure that clubs play fair. They play within these guidelines. They don't overspend X amount of their turnover on more than a certain percentage of transfer fees and wages. So if a club makes X amount of money, they can only put certain pieces of the pie towards their transfers and towards their salaries. This is because, especially in the UK, a number of clubs went out of business.
They bankrupted themselves. Yeah, what do they call it in England? Not bankruptcy. There's another word for it.
They folded. They went under. They were bankrupt. I mean, out of business, kaput. And once you file for bankruptcy or insolvency, it's an automatic relegation.
Insolvency, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, I mean, it's because basically, the sports in the UK are not ring fenced, so you get relegated down the tiers, which is, if you watch the Wrexham documentary, you've seen they've just got promoted from the lowest tier to the lowest but one, and they are 3 tiers below the Premier League now.
Right. And jumping to a big tier makes such a difference in the amount of money you can earn. So,
absolutely,
it's a pretty big deal.
80 million on 80 to 90 million just on TV rights for one club for a year. Prize money of $3 to $5 million for just winning a game in the Champions League, and that's about all change up again because it's becoming a league this year. It's going to be very, very tricky and strange. So that's why financial fair play is named as it is, and it's meant to keep things fair. Unfortunately, it doesn't, because we do have greenwashing. We do have, and I can think of, like I said, there's sports washing. There are 3 teams who are very guilty of that in different ways. We have Paris Saint-Germain, which is the Paris Saint-Germain, depends on how you want to pronounce it.
Owned by Qatar, essentially.
Yes, basically owned by a fucking country. Ridiculous. Who now have the eggs coming, the chickens coming home to roost because they're stuck with Neymar, who is absolutely useless. Messi's done a bunk, and Kylian Mbappe is refusing to play for them anymore because they're serially shit. Then you have Newcastle United, who are owned by another Middle Eastern fund, government, oil money.
PIF fund.
Yes, and then of course you do have the unfortunate poster child for sports washing. And which team is that, Ray?
That is my team. Newcastle is Saudi Arabia. My team, Man City, is United Arab Emirates, and these countries are rich primarily because of oil, of course, and these countries have various degrees of human rights offenses, whether it's killing journalists, mistreating migrant workers, as Marcus said, horribly mistreating people in the LGBTQ community. So there's a lot that most people do not agree with.
There's a lot not to like about them. I mean, the last World Cup shouldn't have been in Qatar, and
for several reasons.
Yeah. But I'm actually, I'm very interested, and I think we've had this discussion, but I think we should have this on air. I mean, how do you feel as a long-term Manchester City fan? And look, I know I'd be conflicted if one of them came in for Liverpool.
I absolutely am conflicted.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a lot of talk about one of the Saudi funds coming in for Liverpool over, at the beginning of last year, I believe it was, or this year. I mean, it equates success because there is more money available for transfers and salaries, etc., etc. I mean,
Right.
but it is literally it's that selling your soul to the devil for success. I mean, how do you feel as a fan? You're getting all this success, which is great.
Right.
Woohoo! You've just done the three-peat. Going after the treble of winning three Premier League titles in a row. You have the world's second best manager. Who am I kidding? He's the best. You have a squad that is. You have the best team on the planet. The best club team on the planet is Manchester City. So you've got all this glory, all these wonderful memories. And then on the other side, you've got the horrific treatment of LGBTQ people, of migrants, of migrant workers, of, you've got fascistic regimes, religious despot regimes,
Right,
incredible disparities between the rich and the poor in these the countries that own these teams. So
right.
how do you? I mean, I know I've set you up you're in a no-win
No.
situation. I apologize, but I am curious because I know how good a person you are.
Oh, thank you.
And I mean, you are a fantastic person. I don't know anybody who's got a bad word to say for you.
Don't call Jay Allard. No.
But I mean, how do you feel about that?
Conflicted, as you said, is probably the perfect word. When I first picked City as my team, I was living in Thailand at the time. A lot of British people there, most of whom were either Liverpool or Man U supporters. So I didn't want to pick those teams. So I did some research and studying, came across City, and they seemed good enough to stay up in the Premier League, but not good enough to really win it. So I thought
they were Richmond. They were AFC Richmond.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
And so I'm like,
slightly longer history.
And I love sky blue. I mean, I'm being honest here. I like the colors. I thought the kits were pretty sweet. I think at the time, I don't know if it was Brother or Thomas Cook was the kit sponsor, but I'm like, Brother's a typewriter nobody gives a shit about anymore. Thomas Cook is I think it was a travel agency in England.
Travel agency. I think when you started, was it the Alan Ball era, Main Road, Georgie King Clancy? I think they still had Thomas Cook as their sponsors, and then it was just at the start of the Premier League era.
Yes.
Before one of their relegations, and they came back again. But I think it was Thomas Cook. So Thomas Cook being a travel agent in the UK that I still think is going barely, or they might have actually gone bust in the last year or so following the pandemic.
So in that context, I mean, I thought it was an average team sponsor nobody ever heard of. Nobody would accuse me of being a bandwagon fan if I chose to become a City supporter.
A prawn cocktail eater.
And then the exiled prime minister of Thailand bought the team, Thaksin. So that for a while before King Power bought a Premier League team, Man City became Thailand's team for Premier League.
Shinawatra, yeah?
Yes, Shinawat.
Shinawatra, sorry. Shinawatra?
You don't pronounce the RA?
Okay, Shinawatra. Okay, thank you. I've been saying Shinawatra my entire life, so Shinawat. My apologies to the people of Thailand for mangling your language. I know how you feel. I live in a country that mangles the English language on a daily basis.
This is true, we do. Although you guys spell color wrong. No. So
aluminium.
I was not expecting a Middle Eastern, the United Arab Emirates to buy City. And that obviously changed everything. Obviously the team's future, but also it changed the league really and how teams operate. And it became more about buying wins. So I didn't feel great about that. I looked at other teams. I almost wanted to stop. I almost didn't want to have a Premier League team at all. So I was looking at Forest Green Rovers because they're all into hippie energy and, they're owned by, I think the owner was like a solar executive. or something. So they're super into that. But I do feel guilty about it because the team basically bought wins. Obviously, the players still have to play, but they're essentially buying the league. Then again, the league is set up not just Premier League, but in world football, where it's easier for the old guard to stay at the top, whether it's your Barcelona's, Real Madrid's, or your Man U's and Liverpool's. And so it's kind of hard for the newcomers to really make a splash until the rules changed and the money changed, and they had to rewrite the rules primarily for Chelsea before Man City when Abramovich came in and was buying everything. So
But yeah, and look, I mean, I'm not discounting Chelsea from this issue. I mean, Chelsea were the first sports washing team owned by an oligarch who, because we weren't as we weren't as perhaps knowledgeable
right.
at the time. We just thought it was a rich Russian guy, but we hadn't realized the bullshit he'd been doing.
Oh my God. I think he's the
yeah,
first Premier League owner that has probably killed people. I mean,
or had people killed.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Relax now, okay? Roman. But yes, they were the first, and they give rise to the nickname Chavsky because their fans were not very classy to start off with, and they just got a little bit worse after they started buying players like Ruud Gullit and Gianluca Vialli and Gianfranco Zola. And then they had the special one in Jose Mourinho,
Yes.
who took them to a title, and they really started. They had this all-star team, and they dominated. And they were the first team who really did start buying the wins and buying these excellent players, money no object, playing stupid money, and then everybody else had to get in, catch up, wither and die, and then Manchester City just elevated it to a whole new stratosphere. Where, I mean, the greatest irony of the last 10 days with all the transfer stuff that's been going on is Sir Pep Guardiola complaining about the Man City tax. That if we want to buy a player, and I apologize.
Why does he sound like Schwarzenegger?
Exactly. If we want to buy a player. No, if we wanted to buy it. No, it's Italian. I can't do it. I can't do a Spanish accent. But what he said was, if we want to buy a player, there is a $10 to $20 million tax because, unseen tax because we are Man City. And there I was reading it going, boo fucking who, pepperoni. You big bald bastard. You may be talented, but you really can't read the fucking room, can you?
I think the proper term is bald fraud, is what everyone calls them.
Well, look, I mean, Pep Guardiola he's an undoubtedly a genius football coach, but at the end of the day, I'd like to see him go manage fucking Wrexham, or actually not even Wrexham. I don't want a Welsh club associated with his fate, but I'd love to see. He's always managed big teams. The phrase flat track bully comes to mind.
Right.
He's managed big teams with big bank balances. He started off at Barcelona when he went from player to player coach. They were at the peak of their powers. They could attract whoever they want. They elevated Tiki Taka Tiki, whatever it's called, chicken tikka, into the most boring. I mean, he knew how to strangle a game because it's like,
man,
click.
I want Indian food.
Have you fallen asleep yet? Oh, you have. Good. We're going to score. And it just became 80% possession. It just became boring. Right. And then when he'd won the European Cup there and he'd won everything that was to win, he fucked off to Bayern Munich, another team that, is a flat track bully that is, has perhaps one team that can occasionally challenge it until, as in the last season, they fuck up on the last day spectacularly and hand the league back to Bayern. Mm-hmm. But again, I've won the cup there, won the league there year after year. But this time he wasn't winning in Europe.
Right.
Which was always interesting. And then after he left, they won the European Cup.
Right.
But he'd already fucked off because, you know, it's like
he took a year off. He went to New York for a year to clear his head.
And then, you know,
but the path was already laid for him. I did want to ask you this. In our last football episode, you told me not to use the term front office and use the term backroom. But I think for the people I was talking about, front office applies. And correct me if I'm wrong. But when you say backroom staff, I think of assistant coaches, the video coordinators. So that's
the backroom staff. But if you're talking about the ownership,
I'm talking about like the CEO, director of football.
That's not front. Yeah, again, we don't use that terminology, front office. It's basically, you know, it literally is the executives, the ownership upstairs,
right? But so that was what I was saying, and it applies to this point for setting up Pep City. The CEO, Saren Feriano, Ziki Bergerstan, these are all ex-Barca people that they're pretty much paving the way for Pep to come. So this was always the plan. And I felt bad for the placeholder coaches that they got in there.
Okay, maybe no. Look, it was always, it may have been the plan or not been the plan, but at the end of the day, United Arab Emirates money came knocking.
It did.
A lot of money, open bank balance. He got to spend the shit out of their money. He bought the best players, and you know, he has an excellent scouting network, and you still have to turn those players into a team, and that's where, you know, you do say he is a genius coach, because he turns every one of those players into his vision of a team. He may be a little bit static. He may overthink things at times.
Right.
He's had some absolute blooper moments, but at the end of the day, he is a chef who is always working with the highest quality, most scarce ingredients, whereas everybody else, perhaps at best, is shopping at Trader Joe's or Whole Foods if they're really fancy.
But I wanted to give credit to those other guys too, who do a good job of developing the academy players, selling them for pretty good fees, and helping keep the net spend reasonable. I mean, the city obviously does spend a lot of money, but they spend it smarter than, say, like Man U has in the last 5 years, or Chelsea has, and they're getting a better return.
They still don't get kudos for spending blood money slightly better than anybody else is spending their money. At the end of the day, mate, if you've got money that is practically dripping red, you don't get a pass.
No, I'm not giving them a pass. I'm just saying.
No, I'm just saying. You know, I mean, you're obviously complimenting the system, but everybody has that system in place. I mean, you know, everybody.
No, but look at Man U. Man U has spent more than City in the last 5 years.
Well, that's because Man U are fucking idiots, and long may it continue. I mean, there are a few things in life that make me happier than watching Man U suffer. I mean, you know, the last season they went very well,
right?
7-0 at our place, but you know, short of seeing Everton relegated, I mean, it's one of the few things in life that makes this sad, dying old man very, very happy.
And that's fair enough. Now let's wrap things up with some predictions.
Yes.
Why don't we start the playmaker? Who do you got for that? The assist leader.
There's two players that come to mind, but I'm one of them wears red, one of them wears blue. Yeah, based on his preseason form and the wealth of attacking options that are going to be playing with him, because he's literally the first name down the team sheet. I'm going to go with Mo Salah for Manchester United. Oh God, there's a vision for Liverpool. The other one would have been KDB, De Bruyne, who is elevated the passing game. I mean, I'm just wondering now that you had the season last year that Liverpool had the year before, and you saw what it did to our over 30s.
Right. He is getting old, and he has had injury problems the last 3 seasons. But if he stays healthy, I think De Bruyne gets it. He has a whole year getting used to playing with Haaland, and that's just such a great target to have. I mean,
well, he's 17 feet tall, isn't he?
Yeah. So
he's a fucking big Norwegian oak.
Yeah. Golden Boot, who you got?
Well, let me see. Who could it be? I think they should actually start a new golden boot for everybody but Haaland. Because
Yeah,
Haaland's going to get it again this year. He is a freak of nature. He is a supremely talented athlete. And he is somebody who is insanely dedicated. You see how hard he works out.
yeah.
And it's hard to begrudge him anything except his haircut. I actually think he needs to start playing more with his hair out of the man bun because when he lets those locks fly, it's like watching Thor. And that's absolutely just awesomely fun.
It is true. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I would love it to be somebody else, but I think unfortunately it's Holland.
I think you're right. One of the guys in our fantasy league says, I think people are going to figure out how to play Holland this year. I'm like, really? How? Like, did everyone just suddenly get a lot stronger? And because he's big and he's really fast for the size that he is.
He's got a very long stride pattern, and he gets so quickly into it. Look at us. We're sounding like ESPN, the Ocho.
Now, last but not least, who's your top four? Who?
I would say that the top four could be anybody from 6 teams.
Make the call. I'm going to pick 4.
The call is Manchester City again for the title, assuming they don't have the hangover that we had last season. Newcastle or Liverpool, provided we can get another signing or two in the door in the next couple of days. Newcastle, Liverpool fighting for second spot. I think for us, we've got the Europa League is going to be, those Thursday, Saturday.
Those are tough. West Ham had that problem.
Yeah. We certainly don't have a squad big enough for that.
Yeah.
That'll cost us. I think Newcastle might feel a little bit of sticker shock going into the Champions League, where they're like, "Oh shit, we're really up against it." If Chelsea click, because I've got a lot of time for Pochettino, they could take that. They could be up there. Arsenal are gonna be up there. So that's why I'm thinking, 5 or 6. And look, you can't look beyond the traditional big 6 of Manchester City, Manchester United, Liverpool, Chelsea, and Newcastle now instead of Spurs, because Spurs, Spurs have a new manager. They have a couple of good signings.
But they still have Levy. I mean, that guy.
At the end of the day, they're still Spurs, and the actual owner, because Levy's not the owner.
Right.
The actual owner is currently under arrest.
Oh, great.
For insider trading.
So I'm going to go 4. I'm going to give it to Chelsea, who let me down last year with my prediction, but I think Pochettino puts it together, gives them an identity, but not good enough to win it. Man U 3rd. I really like the transfer business. I think Ten Hag is a good manager, and he's turned things around for them. Hate to see it. I'm going with City 2nd because the hangover effect, like you said, and just the amount of matches they have to play. And I don't think they have the depth yet that they had last year with the players they lost. So, I mean, a lot can change with the transfer window, but
okay, so this is interesting because you're about to make me, you're not shock me in a good way or a bad way. And I've got a funny feeling it's in a bad way.
I think it's Arsenal's year.
So you don't think Liverpool will even make the top 4 this year?
I think 4th is a toss up between Chelsea, Liverpool, Newcastle. To me, I'm really just
that's totally fair. I mean, look, none of us know. I mean, and that's interesting because I mean that to me that shows how fine the margins are. But you're not wrong 100%. I mean, like I said, we could have a injury-free season. Set our priorities. Fuck the Carabao Cup. Fuck the FA Cup. Focus on the Europa League, because it's the one thing that Jurgen Klopp has not won, and the Premiership and the Premier League, and crush up both if everything goes to plan. Or Sausage Balls and McAllister both break their legs day one against Chelsea, and we are fucked. That's it.
Yeah.
Because we now have a captain that I'm very dubious of his captaincy capabilities in Virgil van Dijk. I don't think he's captain material, but I hope to be proven wrong. I really do hope to be proven wrong. So I am very worried about my team this year. Last year I thought we were going to kick on, but instead we just. It's gonna be interesting to see. Jurgen Klopp has never rebuilt a team. He's always gone after the 6-7 year mark, and this time he has to rebuild a team. And now he's had to rebuild a midfield that in 3 weeks, when he should have been a 3-year job. So, but we do have one of the best attacking lineups in
stacked.
Luis Diaz, we have Cody Gakpo, we have Diogo Jota,
Darwin,
we have Mo Salah, and Darwin Nunez, who, if Darwin's been looking good in preseason. He's had a full preseason with Liverpool for the first time. The language is not as much an issue. I think that we may be looking at a 4-2-1-3, where we're looking at our 4 defenders, the 2 new signings in midfield, with Gakpo playing in the number 10 role, and Darwin playing ahead, and Luis on one wing and Mo on the other. And that, to me, that could be very, very tasty if it comes off. It could also fall flat on its face against teams like Man City, because it would leave our defense too exposed.
Last question for you. Where does Trent play? Does he become a midfielder by the middle of the season, or?
I would like to see him become a midfielder. And this is my only thought that could be, in my head, is that they are going to move him to defensive midfield, and he will play that number 6 quarterback role, and Joe Gomez will come back to play as right back. And Joe Gomez, is somebody who, when he's on form and he's switched on, he's absolutely great. And he's a perfectly serviceable Premier League right back. He's got pace, he's got the athleticism, he's got some sort of footballing brain, but he has monumental brain farts.
Yeah.
But again, strength in depth at centre back is a big issue for us. Joel Matip is long past the sell-by date.
I think he has perforated hamstrings too. He always seems
he could be a number 6 for us. But if anything happens to Konate and anything happens to Virgil, again, we just don't have the strength and depth that we should have. Another centre back, we should have another right back. There's some concern over Andy Robertson's skill set at moving to a back 3 when Trent inverts. So yeah, this is the first the season of Liverpool in a long, long time. When it's actually probably since before Jurgen took over, where I've gone into it with no optimism whatsoever, and a whole lot of pessimism. I have no fucking clue what to have. It's going to be a wild ride. It is going to be a wild ride, and I hope that it's a positive one for our team, but there's no guarantees.
So those are our picks for the top 4 Golden Boot and Playmaker Award. Share your picks, leave us a comment, drop us a tweet. Our Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter are all up there. Thank you guys for watching the Beer Pad. And
by the way, I did see the Meg 2 yesterday, the Trench.
I can't.
No, I know. You have no interest in it, so I'm just going to give a Twitter-sized review.
Yes.
I really loved the Meg, the OG Meg, the first movie with Jason Statham. I thought was funny as fuck, absolutely balls out. It's the Deep Blue Sea of the 2020s.
I do love Deep Blue Sea.
It's so got that vibe. It's got a great cast, really funny in parts. The action is really just really enjoyable. Meg 2, the Trench. First half an hour is bloated and sets up too much. It sets up too much. The child is annoying as fuck. The cast is not quite as good, although the main three guys that they have, who are 4 guys who stand out towards the end. By the way, the women woefully underrepresented this time around. Um, they do bond and got great chemistry. There's a Kraken in it. Krakens are great. There's 3 Megs. So that's great. But there's more plot holes than my grandma's knitted shawls, and yeah, I'd save it for video on demand if you got a nice big TV.
Well, I will give a short review now of Shortcomings. It is a small independent movie based on comics by Adrian Tomine and Randall Park's directorial debut. It's right now it's at the bottom of my top 5 for the year, but I really like the movie. It says a lot of things that Asian Americans think but don't really say out loud. And if you can, see it in theaters and support a small budget movie. If you can't, wait for it on streaming. I think it's worth a watch. It's funny, thoughtful. Yeah, I don't want to go any longer. But yeah, as always, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, share with your friends, and we will see you on the next episode of the Beer Pad. Please say goodbye, Marcus.
Goodbye, Marcus.